Welcome to another episode of the Providence Friarcast, presented by PCBB1917.com, your home for Providence College basketball news, notes, and opinions. Now here's the founder of PCBB1917.com and your host, Mike Hopkins.
We're up and down right now emotionally. Definitely credit Stony Brook. They played well. We had a hard time guarding them on the perimeter early. They stretched the floor and made threes with a heavy concentration during our preparation of trying to take their threes away. Then we took them away. They were driving the ball. It just seems like we're in mud early. We made a change, and I thought, first and foremost, I'm proud of our guys where we found a way to win. We're absolutely dead in the water. But you tell our guys it's not how you start, it's how you finish. We allowed the crowd to get in the game. We just had to see the ball go through the net a couple of times. We just didn't have any energy, but I'm proud of the group. I did think we showed some grit and some toughness, especially the last 8 minutes of the game. I thought Tom Planek's energy and just his experience really helped us. It goes to tell you, you just never know when your number's going to be called. We thought Nate brought a lot of offensive power to the game, and he's getting better and better. It's a good team win. We didn't play great. We found a way to win, and we have to continue to do a better job coaching this group. There's a lot of holes, there's a lot of errors out there, and we're a work in progress. But I thought we made a big jump today. Normally, in a game like this here, these are games we've lost in the past, and this year in particular today, we found a way to win.
And you heard there from Ed Cooley following his team's 62-60 victory over Stony Brook on Sunday at the Dunkin' Donuts Center. Friars needed a couple of free throws from Rodney Bullock to close things out with less than 1 second to go in a game in which his team trailed by double digits, and the difference in the game seemed to be former walk-on Tom Planek, Cooley pushing all the right buttons and heading to the press. Cooley was asked if the press energized them and got them going.
It did. We had to do something to change the pace of the game. Try to get our rhythm a little bit. We had to do something. And it was shot in the dark. We a couple of turnovers, and then we got excited, and energy and enthusiasm took over. So I thought the biggest change in the game was just our energy and energy level. And that was big for us.
Next, Ed Cooley was asked to describe how this game was similar or different than some of the other close shaves that they've had over the last couple of weeks.
Well, this game was played totally different. First and foremost, you have one of the best point guards in the country who is still nursing a sore ankle and then really turned it again. So then, you put a freshman point guard in there who's continuing to learn. And that position's really, really hard, for the way we want to play. But I thought he showed some grit and toughness late in the game. His numbers don't show that he played well, but I thought he made big plays when he didn't score. Whether it was an assist, whether it was a deflection, whether it was, just moving the ball, getting the ball at the right time to the right people. I thought Nate's four points coming down the stretch were huge to continue. I think we kept the lead with his 2 baskets. We either tied it or kept the lead his last 2 baskets.
Did playing more of the up-tempo press allow Makai and the rest of the team to play a little more comfortable?
I thought it made us play a little bit more comfortable. It's not our normal style, but when you're in those situations, you got to try to do something to get the group going. And it worked today. I don't know if it'll work tomorrow, but it worked today.
What was the big catalyst for some of the offensive droughts? Was it the offense of Providence or the defense of Stony Brook?
Well, if you look at our shot chart, I thought we had open shots. I thought we had probably 5 or 6 shots that just were bad. But I thought we had open shots. They just didn't go down. Early in the year, in particular the first 5 games, we were making all of our open shots. And for whatever reason, we didn't make them today.
What did Kyron's injury do to the energy and the offensive presence for the team?
Well, he's our floor general. He's been through a lot of basketball. He knows exactly what he can almost coach the team. It's hard. It's hard. But next man up, and hopefully Makai learned that. Not having Malik or Alpha available really hurt us, especially with experience on the floor. But give the guys the credit that played the game. We found a way to win, and I definitely found some toughness in our group.
What kind of adjustments do you have to make on the fly when a player like Kyron Cartwright goes out?
Well, I think you got to tell your team, hey, one of our brothers went down. We got to we got to rally. We got to rally. We got to make up for his loss, his experience, his ability to score, his ability to create. And I thought our guys did that. And I thought our crowd helped us, especially in the last 8 minutes, helped us rally a little bit. We needed everything today. We needed everything we could. And again, you can't take anything away from Stony Brook. They played well. They played really, really well, especially early, and we were on our heels.
Freshman big man Nate Watson, who led the Friars with 15 points, was asked how quickly his jitters went away, which he admitted he had some jitters in his first college start, and on the impact of Tom Planek in the victory.
Well, as I got the first dunk, I immediately, I wasn't nervous at all after that, and I just kept scoring the ball. My teammates looked for me because it was a small lineup. And then with Tom getting in the game, changed the whole game. That's the reason why we won, I think.
Ed Cooley was then asked, why go to Tom Planek in that situation?
Coaches trust. And I've seen it for 4 years with Tom, or 3 years plus now. In practice, he's always prepared. First of all, I think he's the smartest individual I've ever met in my life, literally. He's going to have an MBA in 4 years from Providence College. He's already graduated from college in 3 years. You can play him at the point, the 1 to 2 to 3, 4, 5, and he just knows what he's doing. He's somebody who epitomizes unselfishness because it's not about him, it's about winning. And gut feeling, it's a lesson to everybody in that locker room. You never know when your number's going to be called, but if it is, be prepared. And every time we put him in a game, he's been more than prepared and he's delivered.
Next, he was asked if this Isaiah Jackson that played in this game is the one he saw earlier in the year.
Yeah, I thought Isaiah, he was the unsung hero today. I thought he did a lot of things today, whether it was a deflection, making a shot, made 2 big free throws late in the game, came up with an offensive rebound. I thought Isaiah played really well. We're going to need him. Again, Isaiah's a junior athletically, basketball-wise, but he's also a senior academically. So, he's not a young chicken out there. We need our veterans to be veterans on the floor for us to have the year we want to have. There's a lot of basketball left to be played, but, we got to try to find some rhythm pretty quick because we have a tough game against Houston coming up.
Then he was asked to give an update on Alpha Diallo and Malik White, who both missed their second straight game due to injuries suffered in the Brown game.
Alpha's coming along a little bit quicker than Malik. Malik's still banged up, very sore in the knee. You saw Alpha out there going through a little bit of walkthrough, but he's very tender. He's still questionable for Wednesday.
Then Ed Cooley was asked to look ahead at the matchup against Houston at Mohegan Sun on Wednesday night against a good Houston team.
A very good Houston team, a high-scoring team. They have one of the best scorers in the country, the leading scorer in the American Conference. We've been doing some early film on them. They defend really well. They hold their opponents under 40%. I hope a lot of people come out during the holiday and support the Friars at the Mohegan Sun. It should be fun. We like playing there. But we love playing at the dunk. And it's a totally different deal, but hopefully we get a great crowd to go down there and try to, steal a non-conference win.
How important is this upcoming stretch with finals in the rearview mirror and the players only having to focus on basketball for the next several weeks?
Well, this is where you see most college teams when there's no classes. This is where you see a big jump in timing, rhythm, rotations, because it's all basketball. No classes. You're traveling together. It's a little bit more chemistry that can be built in the hotels and the planes, on the buses. So we got our hands full. I'm really proud of the group today. I'm really, really proud of our young men. We showed some perseverance. It wasn't pretty, but we found a way to win, and hopefully we can continue to improve as a team.
All right, we're back for another episode of the Providence Friarcast. I'm joined again by Brendan and Chris. We're all here, still kind of exam break. Nate Watson, I think he had one more final left, but he did well enough on Sunday to help the Friars down the stretch, he and McIash and Langford, to a 62-60 win over Stony Brook that really was a little uncomfortably close, I think. Everyone would agree. Rodney Bullock hitting the 2 free throws on that very interesting whistle with less than a second to go on an offensive rebound. And the Friars went 1-0 last week. I guess that's all you can That's all you can really take away. They're 8-3 on the season now, and their final 2 non-conference games coming up. First up will be Wednesday night at Mohegan Sun against Houston, and then they finish up on Friday back at the Dunk at 6:30 against Sacred Heart before they get a few days off and start Big East play on the 28th at St. John's. So, Brendan, what were your thoughts about Sunday just kind of surviving against Stony Brook?
Yeah, another close shave for the Friars. We've seen this quite a bit thus far at the Dunkin' Donuts Center between this game, Ryder, Brown, Belmont, games that have come down to the wire, mostly as a result of, it just felt like the Friars have been sleepwalking for the first 30-plus minute, and all of a sudden they hit the switch. And the other day, the key was, a pressing scheme that we've all talked about, that we would like to see from this group. It finally happened, and Tom Planek saving the day. Who thought that when Ed Cooley looked down at his bench that all of a sudden Tom Planek would be in the game and he would be such a major factor on that press. But he was, and like we talked about at the top, the Friars definitely benefited from a very generous whistle. Brian O'Connell, the head referee, he was at URI the previous day, and who knows, maybe he just wanted to get home early for the holidays and decided, okay, I will try to prevent this game going from overtime. And Rodney, if you are close, there's contact, there's going to be a whistle, go make the free throw lines and save this game from going to overtime. The big things that stood out for me from this game, Nate Watson getting his first start, looking very comfortable on the offensive end. He said after the game that there was some butterflies to be expected making his first ever collegiate start, but the Friars made it a point in the early going to get him the ball, to get him more comfortable, and he was definitely a major offensive factor on a day when you didn't have Alpha Diallo or Malik White. Both are still out with injuries. And then Kyron Cartwright went down early in the second half, re-injuring his ankle. And, points needed to come from somewhere. And, a freshman stepped up big time.
Yeah, I would say surviving is probably the mantra of Sunday. I mean, you look at this game and in March and it's a win. So a win is a win. Obviously, it's not the way that Cooley or anyone wanted to get it done, but they survived, and honestly, they're lucky they survived. They kind of got bailed out towards the end with, maybe a questionable call, but a call nonetheless, and Rodney hit the free throws and got the job done. But, obviously not a great performance. Plus, you have the Kyron injury in the second half where, he came down on the defender's foot, which was, not ideal. He was back out on the bench towards the end of the game on crutches, which I think is kind of an interesting move. Maybe not the smartest move to bring him back out. But, so there's a lot of negatives. But, again, the real main outcome is a win, and that's what you're looking for in non-conference play is a win. And you can just move on to Houston. But, obviously, another injury now. Essentially, you're down 3 guards, assuming Kyron won't be playing on Wednesday. It's pretty unfortunate timing.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously been dealing with this for coming on a month now.
Right.
Since the BC game, and it seems like every game he tweaks it a little bit. But now he had the MRI on Monday, which came back negative, so that was good news. But on crutches, like you said, I'm just not sure. I mean, I think obviously this game against Houston is important in the sense that it's a neutral site game against a team that has the potential to be a top 50 team in the RPI, although they'd have to do a little work in America. The American Athletic Conference obviously is not phenomenal, and they were picked to finish 6th there, so that's not really great. But they really could use this game on a neutral floor. It would help out with their resume. But I also think you have to look at the potential for Big East play being more important, because that's where Providence is probably going to have to make their money now with 3 losses, maybe possibly 4 if they lose against Houston. So you have to kind of look at, I think, Big East play in the bigger picture, and that's how I would look at it. But again, Ed Cooley, he obviously was hoping to maybe do that with Cartwright with the Brown game, not starting him and holding him out but then he put him in with 10 minutes to go. And then also with Alpha Diallo, you have to kind of think the same kind of thing. Do you want to really push him back, or maybe you just, because I mean I think we said this last week. They shouldn't need these guys to beat Stony Brook, and they kind of almost. I mean, it really. Besides that potential for a very loose foul call at the end of the game. Who knows what would have happened if that game gone to overtime? But they shouldn't need either of these guys to beat Sacred Heart on Friday. And so do you just kind of say, well, let's hope that the young guys can figure it out against Houston, and we give Diallo and Cartwright and obviously White, who I think is still a week or two away anyway, but if you give those guys an extra basically 7 days of rest from starting with Wednesday, and they don't play St. John's until the 28th. So, I mean, that might be beneficial in the long run because once Big East play starts, it's a grind, and they do have those little bit of breaks during Big East play, but I don't think Providence has theirs. And I mean, they have, I think, 5 games in the first 15 days or something. It's a pretty brutal schedule.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. I get, this Houston game on Wednesday it's a big game, RPI-wise, and, it's a tough team. It's a good opponent. A neutral court, and it'd be great, solid non-conference win. But like you said, you got to look towards Big East play, and it would be great to maybe get Alpha back against Houston, and but it's just not worth it to a point where you could get these guys potentially 7 days rest, because hopefully you won't need them against Sacred Heart, like you said, and maybe you bite a tougher game against Houston, which is fine. Then they're coming off a full week's rest going into St. John's, where then they play St. John's that Thursday, then they play Creighton Sunday, Marquette Wednesday, Xavier Saturday. Like that's a tough. So, you don't have a full at least 5-day break until you're playing Butler on January 15th. So you're going to need guys healthy going into St. John's because, like you said, it's going to be a grind. And I know it's tempting to try and bring these guys back and push them back for a tough game against Houston, but in the long run and looking at it as a whole season, it's not worth it at all, in my opinion. I don't think that's a question.
Yeah, plus you got not only all the games in that short stretch, but there's a lot of travel because the first 2 games being on the road. So
right.
I mean that adds up too. These guys have to get on a plane, maybe you're on a bus. I mean that's not great for a swollen ankle or a knee.
No.
So I mean that all has to factor in to the decision making. And I think we won't know until literally probably game time on Wednesday night the status of certainly Diallo and Cartwright. But I mean, I guess I think we'll have an idea of maybe how desperate Ed Cooley is, but based on who's actually playing tomorrow, and I don't know, maybe he really is feeling after that performance on Sunday where they needed Tom Planek to come to the rescue, down 11 or whatever it was, to come all the way back. Maybe he feels like they really do need Diallo back in the lineup, and maybe they just push Cartwright in and just say, give us what you can, even though it's kind of, at the end of the day, a meaningless non-conference game. I know I talked earlier about it. It would be nice to have on the resume, but I think it's a nice to have, not a have to have.
I agree. It's kind of like it'll be telling to see Cooley's decision on this because, it is just a non-conference game, but it'll kind of show, I don't want to say the faith that he has in this group, but it's going to show how much he really feels a guy like Diallo or Cartwright really, really means to this team. And if he thinks, maybe they're just going to get smacked by Houston if those guys don't play. So probably will be a game time decision. I'm hearing over the last couple of days that Alpha is kind of ahead of schedule and maybe he could play tomorrow night, but it'll be telling with what Cooley ultimately decides because, it sounds like you and I are on the same page in terms of letting these guys rest, but who knows? Maybe Cooley's not, and maybe Cooley wants a non-conference win against Houston, and maybe he's going to try and push them through, so we'll see.
Yeah, because the other factor, too, is, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, I mean, you maybe you push them in the game against Houston, and then you could give them still kind of 6-7 days off because you could maybe give them off for Sacred Heart. I mean, it doesn't make any sense necessarily in my head, but devil's advocate, I guess you could see where that might be an angle to take, where you kind of feel like you don't want to lose to Houston, and you think you can probably beat Sacred Heart without these guys.
Right.
And so maybe that's something he's
that's definitely an option because. I mean, I feel like a broken record. We've been saying, well, you shouldn't need these guys to beat Brown. You shouldn't need these guys to beat Stony Brook. And ideally, you shouldn't need them to beat Sacred Heart. But I guess we'll find out. But that could, that's not a bad move. I guess it'd be kind of an unconventional way of doing it. But if you were to play him against Houston a little bit and then sit him out against Sacred Heart, you're right. They'd still get 5-6 days rest. So that could work too.
I mean, it makes absolutely no sense, but I guess.
Yeah, it really doesn't. But hey, it's an option. At this point, you kind of got to lay out all the options.
True, and they are They're interesting to watch right now.
Interesting is a really
stretches.
polite. It's a really polite way to put it. You're being very kind. Yeah.
Well, just the long stretches of scoring droughts. I think they had like maybe 16 minutes of the 40 against Stony Brook where they were on scoring droughts.
I mean, yeah, they got 15 minutes left without. If Kyron goes down, they have 15 minutes left on Sunday, so naturally they just jump on a 10-minute scoring drought. It was like just torturous to watch. It was brutal.
Yeah, and honestly, they got helped out a lot by Stony Brook at the end too. I thought they
totally
they made some interesting. I mean, even some of the coaching decisions with that timeout when his team was kind of cruising, it didn't make a lot of sense. But
no, Providence got bailed out big time on multiple occasions.
Yeah, it was not pretty, but again, it's a win, and they're up to 8 now on the season, and I think the goal has always been to get to 10 for non-conference play. So that's still a possibility if they can pull out
doable.
The next 2. They can go 10-3, and then you win 10 games, hopefully in the Big East. That's been the recipe, certainly so far, and I think 20 wins this year with 10 coming in the Big East. With the way the league has looked so far, I think 10 wins in the league will be an impressive feat, and I think that certainly
remarkable.
Gets to him. Yeah. So, but again, I mean, Cooley's best record in this current Big East is 11 wins, and that was a different team than this one. So,
right. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm very curious just to see what Cooley does tomorrow night and see if he pushes it or not. But 10 would be ideal. So it starts tomorrow at Mohegan Sun, but I'm thinking maybe closer to 8 would be like a great win total in Big East play. But again, we can focus on predictions for the Big East after these next 2 games and see where injuries are currently at.
Specifically to talk about Houston, Providence and Houston have only met one previous time. That was back in 1965 with Houston winning 102-89 in Providence. The Cougars are 9-2 on the season. Their most recent game was a 20-point victory over Prairie View A&M. So that's impressive. They did lose the time before that to LSU. Some of their earlier wins in the season that may have looked better at the time, like a Wake Forest, for instance, have lost a little bit of luster. But they put up pretty consistently a lot of points, and their defense has been pretty solid, as you heard Ed Cooley in the beginning of the show. Players to watch out for are senior Rob Gray, who is averaging 20.4 points a game. He is their returning leading scorer from last year, continuing to lead them. Also, a key player for Kelvin Sampson's Cougars is senior Devin Davis, who is their leading rebounder at 7.4 rebounds per game. If that name sounds familiar, it's because that is the same Devin Davis that was on the Indiana basketball team with Emmett Holt when they were both freshmen. And there was that unfortunate incident with a car. Davis bounced around some junior college, and he's now in his second season at Houston. Sampson has reloaded his roster this season, essentially, bringing in 6 immediately eligible transfers with 5 junior college players and 1 graduate transfer. So they are a totally different team than they were a season ago, and very much more experienced. They are, I believe, in the top 30 in terms of overall experience on KenPom. Interestingly, Houston loves to push the pace. They don't press a lot, though. They do like to push the pace on offense, get the ball out of the basket, and run. They've been playing games around 75 possessions per game, which is on the higher side overall. But really, the big storyline for Providence in this game is going to be the availability of Kyron Cartwright, Alpha Diallo, and Malik White. I think it's pretty clear White's not going to play. Probably a week or 2 away, looking like at the best. Diallo could play, as Chris and I were talking about before. Diallo may play. He seems like he's coming along. He was participating in the team's walkthrough on Sunday at Stony Brook, although Ed Cooley termed him as Ginger while doing it. But he could be ready. Cartwright is kind of a wild card. He's been nursing the same ankle, but the MRI obviously being negative is a good sign, but I don't know that he's going to necessarily be ready just a few days after that. Who knows what kind of swelling he had in the interim. Houston will put Providence at the line. They have a pretty poor free throw rate, defensive free throw rate. Of course, the key for Providence is they have to actually convert some of those free throws if they want to win this game. The other thing that's been a bit of a sore point for the Friars that Houston does well is they crash the offensive glass pretty well. And crashing the glass may not be the best description. They are largely a jump shooting team. They don't really have a true low post big man. So a lot of these rebounds are coming on the long rebound off of a jump shot. So that's something to keep your eye on. The guards are going to have to be heavily involved in the rebounding to avoid giving Houston second and third chances. They're pretty efficient as an offensive team, so giving them extra chances not in Providence's best interest. We fought through some technical difficulties in this episode, but we bring you another episode for the 5th straight week of the Providence Friarcast. Keep an eye out maybe on Thursday. You might get some special. Brendan, Chris, and I are all going to be at Mohegan Sun Wednesday night. So there's some talk that we may do a post-game podcast that could be out Thursday. So make sure you're subscribed to the Providence Friarcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/PCBB1917. For as little as $3 a month, you can get access to our Slack community. For $5 a month, you get access to a special recruiting channel, which we've been giving some Jimmy Nichols and Chris Monroe updates, in addition to the local players, local commits, David Duke and A.J. Reeves. So that's been good. And now I want to give a special shout-out to some of the higher-level patrons, and that's JLD, John Lee Dumas, Mike Evans, my parents, Adam Nagel, Bob Allison, Ron Torvik, Brendan Ryan, Dan Marcus, Joe DeAngelis, Dennis Corbett, Mike Sayburn, Ray Penta, Dennis Burns, Alex Simeone, Chris Thurlow, G, Terry Meyer, and Alan Russ. Special shout-out to those fine gentlemen. We also may have some episodes coming up with a few guests here and there. Don't want to shout out any names yet, but we have a couple lined up for next week. So make sure you, again, are subscribed so you get all the latest episodes. The episodes also are always posted on the website, pcbb1917.com. And I hope to see some of you at Mohegan Sun on Wednesday night. If not, talk to you next week.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Providence Friarcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Follow Mike Hopkins on Twitter and Instagram
at PCBB1917. Like the Facebook page, and as always, stay classy, Friartown.